Hi, I'm Jennet Ingle, the 5-Minute Reedmaker. If you are watching this on YouTube, would you go ahead and click subscribe for me and maybe even notify? And this way you always know when I drop a new episode, and it makes it easier for other people to find my channel and to become better reedmakers and happier musicians. Thank you very much. Today, I thought I would go through a box of my day 3 reeds that have been scraped on day 1, been finished on day 2, and now I'm looking to sort them. I'm looking to finish, I guess, and sort them into for sale reeds. I'm not going to go through all of these reeds here on this video because that'll take an hour probably, but I do want to just give you some insight into the things I think about as I finish reeds, the things that I think about as I finish reeds for myself versus the things I think about as I finish reeds to go out for sale. And I guess I just wanted to walk you through what happens at this point in the life of a Jennet Ingle Reed's reed. So here we go. You notice that I just grabbed a few out to soak. I'm working on all of the synthetic cork ones first because, people order Pisoni staples, people order Chirugi staples. I will fulfill those separately, but I'm just going to start with these and go through them one at a time. So the first thing I'm looking for is that I need these reeds to basically meet spec. I need them to be crowing a C, less than 47 millimeter, less than 71 millimeters. I'll start again. Crowing a C, less than 71 millimeters, and playable on the oboe, and comfortable on the oboe. So let's start here. This crow feels a little low to me. I haven't started playing yet, so... So I'm definitely at a B crow. The reed looks a little long to me too, and it feels a little easy. Easy is not necessarily bad if I'm making reeds for sale to other people. So I'll start by just bringing this around to, there we go. I'm going to clip because it's a little long and because it's under pitch. And now that I've got my C crow, I've even got a C sharp crow, actually. And I play it on the oboe. I don't hate the way this feels. It's a little easy for my taste, and I don't like that the crow is a little high. And let's just double check that I am mating spec. Yes, I am under 71 millimeters. I notice that my corners are not all that great on this reed, so it would please me if I was able to clip one more time. And when I think about reeds for myself, I don't care what they look like. The reeds that are in my actual performance case, they are ratty looking in many cases. But if I'm going to send out a reed for sale, it is important that it looks appropriate, that it looks like a reed. So as I go in and refine the corners once more, and this is just to lower the crow and to make the reed feel a little bit more done. As I do that, I'm really being careful here on this day 3 because I don't want to have raggedy corners or anything ugly that I can't sell. That's why I went in and resharpened my knife. Isn't it interesting how much cane has just come off of this reed, which already was a finished reed. It was already pretty functional. And now I'm back to the B, which means I can clip. Now, you'll notice, every time I put this reed in my mouth, I get a little bothered. It's not quite as open as I would want. It's not quite as resonant as I would want. But also this reed is not for me. So I am inclined to leave it here, to call it a medium soft, because it feels too easy for me, but isn't like ridiculously easy. Crow's a C, less than 71. It works all the way up and down the oboe. It feels pretty straightforward. Another thing that I might check sometimes is this trick, which I do a lot with my students. Shove the reed over here where I have no embouchure, just to make sure that I'm not fixing it with my mouth. And if it still plays, which it does, and if it still sounds oboistic, which it does, and if it still plays in tune, that's telling me I've got a perfectly fine reed here. I'm going to call this a medium soft. I'm going to put it in this pile, and I'm going to move on to the next one. This reed has immediately more resistance than the other. It seems to be crowing a C. The measurements look fine. The corners look fine. But it's feeling to me like it's a little resistant. Let me try it on the oboe. Now this is a reed that its resistance feels great to me. Like I would like to play a reed like this in the orchestra. I can put tons of air behind it. It's just going to keep expanding, getting better and better. I can't overblow it. Feels great. It does feel a little inflexible and a little bit unresponsive. This is something that I can tell from beeping it. Like I have to put in a little bit more air than I would want if I'm using, if I'm just using playing position and using my tongue to activate this reed. It's not quite there where I want it. And I felt that as I played it as well. So this is a reed where I don't want to touch the heart because I like the resistance, but I do want the response to be just a little quicker. Notice that the reed did meet spec, right? It was less than 71, it crowed a C, it played on the oboe. But now I'm looking at sort of the more delicate metric of response versus resistance. The resistance felt super comfortable to me, the response did not. So I'm working right at the corners and sides of the tip with my nice sharp knife. And even on this finished reed, there's always a little more we can get off when we work up in that area. Sometimes that'll drop the crow pretty substantially. It doesn't really seem to have in this case, so I'll play it again. So I've got a C crow. It seems responsive and comfortable for me to play. I'm happy with it. It still is more resistant than this original one, so I'll call it a medium, and I'll move on. This guy is a C crow and is heavy and resistant. The response doesn't actually seem as bad as the first one did, but there's a lot of resistance and bulk in it. Isn't it interesting how all three of these reeds are so different from each other, despite, me having day 1 scraped them 2 days ago, day 2 scraped them yesterday. Like, I did the same things to all of them, but they're all a little different. And this is because, cane is an organic material. It's always going to be an individual. These reeds were shaped and tied and scraped by hand, by humans who are human. So that there's always going to be an element of variability between one reed and the next and the next and the next, no matter how consistent I am. And I am pretty consistent. I've got all of these reeds here. They are all playable, because I know that if they weren't playable, I would have gotten rid of them before now. But some are better than others. So this guy feels really resistant to me. The tip looks incredibly long. So although I'm not over long, I do notice that my heart is a little bit shorter. So as I scrape, I'm going to be like looking to shorten this reed a little bit more. Ooh, interesting. I can even feel a little bit of thickness there in the center of the tip. So starting with the sides and corners of the tip, because it's never the wrong answer to just pet the kitty again. And I suspect I will also need to go into the heart on this reed. Okay, there's my tip. It's got a nice, very nice, easy beep. A pleasant crow. The crow's a little low. And actually the resistance feels very comfortable now. Interesting, right? Because we talk about the tip is response, the heart is resistance, the windows are resonance, or some other things sometimes too. But very often, all I have to do is the sides and corners of the tip to make a reed feel the right amount of resistance again. So I'm going to clip this. I know you can't see everything I'm doing, but I'm trying. Up to the C crow. Play it again. Feels really comfortable. I can articulate easily. I've got a nice amount of resistance, nice for me. So again, I will call this a medium and call it done. Okay, fourth one. It feels like I have to put a ton of air in to get that response. So this seems like I'm going to need to work on the tip again. I am at 70. I've got a low crow, so I'm going to need to clip. But the reed doesn't look bad. We're still within spec. So I'll clean the corners and sides of the tip. Now the crow is quite low, but the beep feels really good. So I'll go ahead and clip now. And one more. And try it on you. I actually really like the way this feels. It's a little bit more open. It's a little bit more saggy than some of my reeds. It doesn't feel unpleasant, but it's making me suspicious. So I'll try that side of the mouth test. Okay, so what I like is that the upper register, those upper left-hand notes, are still holding themselves up in place, even when I'm not doing anything to make them do that. And that's what I want. I've got a C crow, I've got a reed. It's a little short. Like, honestly, the length of it, it's 69.5, which is not, you know, unbelievably short for some people's reed making, but it's pretty short for mine. Again, all of these pieces of cane are individuals. The because I do very little of my own winding anymore, all of these reeds have been wound by different people. Sometimes people will wind a little bit shorter or a little bit longer than I might have done. And like that does make a difference. It doesn't make an enormous difference, and all of these reeds are still coming out consistent and playable and comfortable, but they do look different from each other. And that's okay. We don't make a reed to look at, we make a reed to play on. I'm going to call this a medium soft, and I'll do just one more as we're sitting here. This one has already got a sea crow. It feels pretty hard. It feels pretty heavy. I have to put like actual air and muscle behind that to get the beep. And I have to work hard to get to that crow. And I'll just show you what that feels like and sounds like on the oboe. It's interesting. It sounds good once it gets started, but it's really hard to get this thing to respond. I have to tongue really hard. So, that is telling me that there might be a leak, but there is not. So it's telling me that my tip is heavy, that something about my tip is not responsive. And, oh, what's that? Looks like a hole in the tip. And if that is true, then when I scrape there, I'm probably going to destroy that corner. Let's see if that's true. Obviously, I can't just not scrape because it's not responsive as it is. But look, I was able to scrape that corner, even up to shredding the corner itself a tiny bit, without that hole rupturing. So I'm just going to leave it alone, ignore it for the moment. It may just be like a color on the cane. And it doesn't take me but a minute to go ahead and finish this reed and see if that is indeed a fatal flaw or not. Isn't it interesting that although every one of these reeds had a different quality, right, had a different thing that was not quite perfect about them, in almost every case, it is this action of, in almost every case, it is this action of polishing the sides and corners of the tip that brings it around. It's almost always the answer. Petting the kitty, scraping the sides and corners of the tip, really is never the wrong choice. Okay, so now we've got kind of a wildness, and the crow comes almost too easily. This is telling me that my tip is too long and thin now, which is fine. That means I can clip. So it's a nice kind of up crow. I don't really love the way that sounds. I'm going to deal with it in a minute, but let me see on the oboe first what is happening. So I definitely have a much, much easier response than I had before, but my problem now is that this reed doesn't feel very integrated. I feel like I've got the tip vibrating, but not really everything else. There's a bulk to it that is not really working for me, and there's an edginess to the sound that says to me that my vibrations are not really flowing through the heart very well. So I'm going to work in the heart next. And see if I can just polish the side, dust across, polish the side. Okay, so I'm looking for the tip and the heart to just feel like they're a little bit more of a unit. And to be fair, as I look at this reed, I can see that there is a lot of thinness right in the center of the tip, as though in some of my earlier scrapes I've taken too much off there. So we may or may not be able to get this to be a reed, but let's just try. There's my crow. It's much nicer, feels very easy. So this is a very easy read. The crow was a B, so I'm going to click one more time. So what I have now, this reed feels too easy for me. I don't really like it. But it plays very easily. It plays in tune. And there are plenty of people who are my customers who prefer a lighter, easier reed. This comes out just as soon as I blow. It is not difficult to make sound on. It does meet spec. We are less than 71 millimeters, less than 70 actually. We're not overwound. We're crowing a C. It plays up and down the oboe, and that feels like a medium soft reed to me. I don't have to love every reed I play, but they do have to have, I don't have to love every reed I sell, but all of the reeds have to have the same like core value. They have to play in tune. They have to respond easily. They have to like be able to go up and down the oboe without fighting. They have to not leak. Like all sort of the basic things have to be in place. The fact that I don't sound as great to myself playing on these easier reeds doesn't make them less good reeds. They just make them better suited to somebody else. And if you are working on finishing reeds in your own case and needing them to match your own playing style, like thing one, maybe every reed isn't going to do that because, as I mentioned, the pieces of cane are individual. The scrape is individual, and like we as humans are prone to inconsistency and errors. So it is possible that not every piece of cane you apply your knife to is going to make a reed that is great for you. But I do think that almost every piece of cane you apply your knife to can make a reed that is competent, that is functional. And like this is one of the reasons why I love a reed business so much. It's because these three reeds over here are not bad reeds. They're just not great reeds for me. And if I were only making reeds for myself, I would have to break those off and like move on or spend the next, 10 minutes trying to make them into something that they are not wanting to be. Whereas because I have this business, because there are people out there who prefer a reed that plays a little more easily than the reed that I prefer for myself, like I can sell these and somebody will enjoy them and somebody will benefit from the fact that this is an easy to play, functional reed that plays in tune, has a nice sound, has a reliable response. That's what we're after. That's what we're doing here. I hope that this has been helpful and interesting for you to see. You can follow these short videos here on YouTube. You can subscribe if you wish, and I hope you will. And if you would like to reach me to order reeds or cane or a copy of my book, The Happiest Musician, or to reach out to me with a question that I could answer in a future 5-minute Reedmaker episode, you can find me at jennetingle.com. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.